mound that those artifacts were from. My guess is it's of course been restored so that we can see its profile. It lacks the tree that that old illustration showed, and notice that it is in itself tiered. I would imagine that the downward slope of this tiering, and also it seems like the downward slope of the top towards the left was intentional to allow drainage and perhaps prolong the life, but you wonder why they did not bother to cover it in roofing tile, which would guarantee a longer future. Not going to show us his colors. He's disguised right now. Just a lazy pan about the pretty countryside. From the people with backpacks getting off the train, I would assume there are some very nice hiking possibilities up through here. So this was made between the late 7th century and the early 8th century, i.e. late 600s, early 700s. Not till 1972 did they discover there was a tomb inside with these paintings. This is the mound before the excavation with lots of trees on it. And this was the careful and sophisticated removal of the stone chamber. So this topo representation was to show the position of the various artifacts found in the mound. These apparently represent two mounds, the lower one and then the upper one. So I'm assuming the lower one was initially a truncated mound and the other one was placed on top of it. Apparently I'm here, but not much to look at. Certainly nothing that is antique or old dating back to that era. But perhaps there was much, much more here at the time. Jinshin War of 672, the emperor laid the foundation for the Ritsuro legal system. His wife, Empress Jito, succeeded him to the throne. He was the first emperor to be cremated, and his wife's remains are buried in this tumulus. It was tunneled into and robbed in 1235. A document entitled Aoki no Sanryo-ki describes the burial mound, outer chamber, and the interior of the burial chamber. The mound was described as 8-sided and built in 5 layers with stone steps around the periphery. Stone chambers are constructed with dressed stones and contain the remains of Emperor Tenmu in dry lacquer casket and of Empress Jito in a gilt bronze ossuary. So this may be all that remains. Around at the back, behind that huge facade of trees, we can see the mound outlines. And all of this backdrop by a large semicircle of bamboo forest, if you will. And that music, or bells or gongs, that's electronic, may indicate noon. So here's some views of what we're about to see. This large stone. Apparently the stone, the huge stones, is supported by two bigger stones embedded inside the mound. And this is kind of like the, how'd they build the pyramids issue, not using Rosetta Stone. Sand was taken away a little at a time from the right side of the stone while balancing it using weights, buoying the giant stone. The panels, we can see the heavy stone was carried using levers, rollers, wheels, and pulleys. And the hole was filled with dirt while gradually moving the stone upright. And then finally, to complete the tomb, the ceiling stone was set. Then dirt was removed from the inside. The tomb was then covered by dirt, and holes were tunneled, and the top was covered by small stone. Unlike the drawing, it shows just one big stone, but there are several stones, and this must be the entrance into the tomb here, so you can wander around to the back and take a look. I tried to get in one of the group pictures and they just laughed at me, so I left. This stone and other stones are put in place as we saw in the diagram. Big stones, but the Incas moved stones just as big, and many of them, and across the valley and a river. So applause to both cultures. I wonder if there were big stones all the way along this corridor, and then it was all filled in. You wonder why it was not a tomb. Yeah, this is an interesting structure because it's not just on top of two stones, it's this layer and then that layer, another layer on top, and then the stones going across. That it would not be used as a tomb seems extremely curious. At the very least, it had to be a temple. And the stones look like they were probably worked to some degree to create the flat, and then this to create that angle. Not, of course, what the Incas created, but probably given its time and its context, pretty damn impressive architecture. Now I'm standing down in what would be normally considered the bottom of a moat, but I wonder if this existed at the time as a design feature, whether there was water in here, or whether it's something that's been created later to highlight this monument. Looks like an example of what a tomb would have been before you closed it in by pushing this top stone on top of this. Normally would have been considered a sarcophagus, and I'm sure that's what it is. This may well have been what was inside the tomb under those rocks. Too well done right now to have been anything other than a reproduction, but people in the day may have looked at this in the same way that we look at a huge skyscraper or some incredible bridge. So yes, it is a grave built around the 7th century. The seal at the top of the tomb has already been lost. I'm not sure what they mean by that, and that's they mean the top of the sarcophagus, exposing the enormous sealing stone. Nope, I don't know what seal means unless there was something on top of this. Doesn't it almost look like an individual with his head up to the right? That's my thought. No one knows for sure who was buried here. It's thought it could be Soga no Umako, who had power in the latter half of the 6th century, so 580 or 90 or something. Actively excavated in 33 and 35. Estimated that the weight of the ceiling stone is about 64 tons and approximately 77 tons at the south end, whatever that means. Incas moved stones of 90 to 100 tons. The origin of the name is interesting. It's generally said to come from the shape of the stones, meaning a stone stage. However, there's a story that long ago A fox transformed into a woman and danced upon the stones. Another involves a traveling entertainer who performed using the large stone as a stage because there was no stage. Of course, it is prohibited today to climb onto the rocks. Eating and drinking are also prohibited. Must be field day in the spring for kids to come see part of their national heritage. Here, another one of those women horribly bent over at the back, but still going strong.